Announcement. The hemp revolution will not be televised. I repeat, the hemp revolution will not be televised. Welcome to the Hemp Revolution podcast, the global hotspot for the buzz and the cannabis. You can hear the stories of the green rush from the dreamers who are writing the rules, innovating the business, and changing history forever. Immerse yourself with the fascinating stories from the leaders in the hemp health revolution to learn how we are changing the game forever. Introducing your hosts, James Brinkerhoff and Sonia Gomez. Welcome to another episode of On the Rise podcast. I'm your host, Sonia Gomez, and today we are going to be talking about some of the industry's necessities when it comes to funding for your business. Whether you are a new entrepreneur, an established brand, or looking to achieve the results that you want in your business, something tells me that one of the questions or one of the challenges inevitably that you are going to hit as an entrepreneur or a business owner is funding for your business. Now, the big question or elephant in the room is, where can we get that capital? Where can we get the funding? Where can we find the financial support or resources that we need to invest properly into our business? And how should we be effectively using that funding to build, grow, and establish our brand as a global mogul? So today, our guest, Tyler Watts, has worked with some of the world's leaders in live event spaces, supporting audiences up to 15,000 people in it being able to access the funding that they need to start whatever venture they are in, or more importantly, invest in their current venture to be able to build, grow, and scale, hitting the milestones that we have set before us. So without further ado, give a nice warm welcome to our guest, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler? How you doing?
Hey, Sonia, wow, what a great introduction.
Thank you much. I'm more excited. You know, I never feel like I do my guests justice in the introductions because no one can brag better than ourselves. And I'm always like, oh God.
No, I don't think I'm going to hold a candle to that. So well, perfect.
Here's your opportunity. Why don't you, before we dive into all of the money conversations, which everybody's always so excited about, why don't you just take a few seconds and let us know a little bit about your superhero past and powers? What does Tyler Watts do out in the world?
Oh, wow. So my cape is covered with things. So, right, superhero cape, right? So
yeah, superhero cape.
Okay, so my cape has lots of patches on it. But I have spent the last 20 plus years, 22 years maybe, in real estate investing and coaching and training and education for online or home-based business stuff. So I've done a lot of that, helped a lot of people, thousands and thousands of people, help them get started in their new venture, their new business, whatever that may have been at the time that I was involved in. So I've been heavily invested in real estate for a long time, teaching and educating in that field. But more recently than not, it's the last like 4 or 5 years I've been involved in, helping people get funding for these businesses. And where that comes from is all of my experience in the past of like talking to so many thousands of people that needed capital to help start their business, and they had a hard time taking that first step because they didn't have the working capital. And so those people would just be lost in the wind for the most part. Or you were always trying to find a way to get them some extra capital to do something. But then, if you're charging a bunch of money for the education, then, that took most of their money. They couldn't even buy real estate or anything with it. And so there's no protection for the business, so to speak. So I kind of exited that game plan and started working directly with turnkey real estate people. And then I was able to help people. Instead of charging them a bunch for education up front, I was charging them, selling them a property, and they were investing that way and started to make money. And I guess the bell rang in my head of, we've got to figure out a way to help people fund their business. That's the most important thing. And funding is actually protection for your business. And what I've also found is, like, if you can properly fund a business from day one, instead of waiting until you're up against the wall trying to scrape for an extra $2,000-$3,000 to get somewhere, if you have $100,000 sitting there that you can use, you make better educated decisions.
Right.
So oddly enough, right? and you're making the decisions instead of nickel and diming yourself your way through it and losing some money here and there. You're actually making the investments into the right tools the first time. And you can clearly see that path because you don't have the stresses of, well, I don't have 10,000 right now to do that kind of marketing. So I'm going to do these $1,000 at a time marketing pieces that get you nowhere.
Right.
So it's better if you have that 10,000. So if you have clarity with the funding behind you, you're going to get a whole lot quicker and better results utilizing that capital. And so that's what I've been doing over the last several years, is helping people get access to funding that they need to own and operate a true business and protect that business as they're growing it. So
this is like my absolute favorite subject to talk about with my clients and customers. So we work with consumers and helping them get connected to high level brands, the top performing brands, to get to serve the actual function and deliver the results that they're looking for. And I also am running the Emerald Circle Mastermind, which many of our listeners are a part of. And we are a high level business group, focused on up leveling the quality and performance of our brands. And one of the first pieces of advice that I offer it's more of like I force this advice on them, is, it takes a lot more time, energy, and surprisingly money to go back and fix mistakes or decisions that could have been made or executed properly from the start. It always takes longer and more money to go back and fix something than it does
to fix things,
to get it done right the first time. So in everything that I'm doing to guide our members down their path to success, I'm always talking about, how is our decision today going to affect the results that we're getting 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 3 years from now. And a lot of people have this vision of exiting or selling their brand for a multiple. And in order to do that, you need to be properly funded. You need to understand what steps to take at what time, and more importantly, how long you should spend on that step before trying to jump to the end. So this is really exciting for me to be able to talk to you about, because I know even still with the joining into our community and being a part of our mastermind, many of our members are still challenged with feeling confident and comfortable that they have the resources necessary to stand the test of time. Right now, everyone is very excited about starting their brand, but I'm explaining that even though we're getting started right now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, 12 months from now, our conversation's quickly going to shift from how do I get started in the CBD with a CBD brand to how do I stand out with my brand in the CBD market. So being properly funded from the beginning is going to be a major, major accelerator for their success. Talk to me about the different types of funding that are available for new businesses.
Okay, so typically where we like to start, because it sounds as good as it really is I always start with personal credit and what we call 0% funding access, right? So we like to use, everybody gets these 0% offers in the mail. Not everybody, actually. People with good credit typically are the ones getting them. But if you're getting a 0%, or if you've ever seen a 0% offer, we just have a way of going in and doing applications on your behalf to maximize your credit potential. And it's not something that people can go out and do on their own. It's a very strategic, I don't want to call it proprietary, but it's a very strategic way of going in and doing this to help maximize their credit, right? And people are usually afraid of credit, afraid of damaging credit, afraid of, inquiries and derogatories, and then utilization, and then all these different things with credit, right? So we just want to educate you through that process, how to make it work and how to maximize things for you. And, I talk to people, I use brief examples sometimes of, like, if you wanted to go on a family vacation and you needed a $10,000 credit limit on a credit card to do so, and you wanted to do that at 0%, you apply for the card because you got the offer in the mail, and it says, hey, you're pre-approved for $25,000. And then all of a sudden you get the card and it shows up at $5,000. Well, then you waited, 5 to 10 days to get that actual card and approval. And then once you have it in your hand, you see that it's 5,000. You're like, oh, shoot, I needed 10. So I'll apply for another one. And then what happens if you get declined on that? human nature says, I'm approved for 5. I guess that's what I was worth, right? So typically people just stop and they don't know where to go, where to turn to get another approval, or how to get another approval, or what banks are doing the offers that they are, hopefully looking for. We just know all the banks. We have relationships with some of them. We know, and I'm not going to say that the banks love what we do with that, because we are educating the masses out there on how to beat the bank at their game.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is a game that they play with people, especially with credit cards.
It's all a game.
They want you to use it for negative and consumer debt, right? So that's how they win. And they don't want you paying, the card off in full every month. They want you carrying a balance, and then they actually want you to default so that they can get the max credit or interest rate paid to them. So
I've done that before.
35%, right? So that's what they hope for, is that you'll default even by just a minute. The fine print is just that, is if you default for some reason, they withhold the right to change that interest rate on you at any moment, right? So anyway, that's the game that they play. We try and teach people to beat them at that game, and we want to help them utilize those 0% offers to the maximum ability. And so that's one of the things that we do, and that's where we typically start.
So can you tell me really quickly, and this will be a theme for each one of these tiers that you give me, talk to me a little bit about who would be a good fit for this. Is this like sort of just a general starting place for anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
This is just in general, anybody, even business owner, small business owner, somebody that just needs a little extra capital to protect their business, or they, there's some contingencies on that. There's some conditions that come to it. And that's based on utilization on your current accounts and stuff like that. But for the most part, anybody needs it. And if you do have balances on your cards currently, why not have them at 0% instead of 15, 18, 27, 29, 34%, like if you're in California. So you might as well have those at 0%. And that's something I can help do as well, and maximize that opportunity for you versus just one card at a time, so to speak.
Okay. And is there a particular credit score that somebody should anticipate having in order to see optimal results there, or even average results?
Well, let's just talk about different ranges. So, because optimal results is great. And typically if you're, in the 800s, that's optimal, right? If you're in the 700s, that's, going to be considered good credit. And, we give fairly consistent high approvals for somebody that's in that range, 50 to 75,000. 800s, you're going to be typically 75 to 100,000 plus. That means like 150,000 or something. So, and this is all done at 0%, but the 620 and above is kind of what we look for, with some credit history, right? So if you're new to credit and revolving accounts and things like that, typically you want to have something established for about 2 years. But we can do some things to help people get approvals. They're just not going to be as many or as big a number, right? So, but 620 and above is kind of our minimum. We can't get anything done under 620 typically.
Okay, that's really good information to know. I think one of the challenges, I'll just say the umbrella marketplace, right? Online marketing has a terrible reputation for being high fee, over promoting, under delivering, over promising, under delivering. And I think that there's a lot of information out there that is actually false, where they say like, no credit, no problem, type advertising, and saying,
well, of course, if we can get 40% from you, we're no credit, no problem.
Yeah. So I just want to be really clear in establishing those expectations. And I know not everybody's credit is great, and no one's expecting that you are a unicorn with 800 plus credit. I do want to let you know, though, that there's multiple solutions, and sometimes we have to layer solutions to get you the results that you're looking for. So if you are in, and just speaking to the audience who's listening, if you guys are in a situation where you may not have the qualifying credit, quote unquote, there are credit repair options. We have a few people that we refer out to. So if that's something that you'd like to take advantage of, just shoot me a message and we can start taking the necessary steps to prepare you for these types of funding solutions. Please don't feel discouraged. And if you are in that situation and you'd like to get in touch with Tyler and find out more about how he can help you acquire the funding that you're looking for, we will be providing all of his contact information at the end of this episode so that you can get in direct contact and start that conversation around getting those resources for your business. Tyler, talk to me a little bit about next steps after you do the credit card piece. What are some other options that you start to run?
So let's touch on that again. So one of the things that we also do is have you sign up for a credit monitoring service. It costs $1 to sign up for these typically, because we try and sign up for a 14-day or a 7-day free trial for that time period. Then we're able to go in and log into your account without, you just send back the logins for me that you created for that. So I would have you create a password that you're okay giving me. Usernames, typically your email address. But once you give me that information, then I can log into it without putting hard pulls on your credit. We can see all 3 bureaus. We have to have all 3 bureaus. You can't use Credit Karma or something like that. Those are inflated scores typically so that they resell your information to credit card companies and other banks and such. So
good to know.
Yeah. So the other options after that are going to be either term lending. These are all interest bearing. So we have ULOC, which is unsecured lines of credit, and that's all the credit card, or we have personal lines of credit or personal interest lines, PILs, right? So then we start looking at term loans. We work with a number of different banks on term loans. So if you need extra capital, we do merchant lending. So based on your bank account and your merchant processing, or just your income that you're bringing into the business account, on a monthly basis, we can lend against that, and we can withdraw daily, weekly, biweekly, or monthly payments from that. They would ACH payments back to themselves out of that bank account, but we can lend against that, and we can usually get really good money on based on those terms. So then we have, opportunity with hedge funds, and I have a hedge fund operator that's running a $15 million hedge fund right now, but he's also connected to somebody that's running a $50 billion hedge fund if we need to get bigger money. That's all collateral based. When you start getting into that type of stuff, we've got to have some sort of collateral that we can put up, either a mortgage or a house that has a certain value to it more than the loan amount. So just depending on what you need and where you're at in business, then we would direct you to those different types of sources to get you the maximum amount of capital that you need for your business.
So what I hear you saying, and this is probably, if I'm understanding it correctly, it's my favorite thing. There's not a cookie cutter way of doing this. You address each individual and meet them where they are, addressing each one of their concerns or considerations and helping them access what they need from that point.
Yeah. And it comes down to sometimes it's the cost of money that is scary, but I have a guy right now that I'm working with, and he's paying a whole bunch of money on a monthly basis. He's got $30,000 a month that goes out and just repayments to loans that he has out, and he's got like 5 different companies that he's working with. We're trying right now just to bring that down into one payment, one source, and $30,000 a month. It's paying against $200,000, but I'm telling you right now that $30,000 a month, probably 20,000 of that is going straight to interest.
Yikes.
So it starts to kill him at that point, and we try and eliminate some of that stuff and put him in a better position. We aren't miracle workers, that's for sure. Sometimes we are bound by some of the banks that we work with and what they're willing to do. But at the same time, we do have sources out there that we can, try and find you the most amount of money for the best rates and the best possible returns for you. So we'll just help you maximize your returns.
I heard somebody describe the work with you, Thou Shall Remain Nameless, and they said that you acted as a safety net for them, and because they didn't understand, or they were getting these types of offers. They had a few other people approach them. They had attended some live event where somebody said, oh, let's do A, B, and C, and I can get you the funding for this, and something in their gut just said that they didn't want to do it. And they came across you at an investor, I think it was a real estate thing actually, because he's running a REIT, and he said that he absolutely loved the interaction with you, that you were able to help some of his clients and customers. I actually didn't even run this by you, but it was interesting because I had just in passing mentioned your name, and he was like, oh, he's like a safety net for all my people. And I was like, oh, okay, that's really great. So I'll tell you who he is after that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, it's good because I try and, I appreciate that, but it's like, I really do try and educate the people on, the different situations out there, the different things that are going on, and different people that are trying to lend money. And I do look out for the client themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for my personal gain. I do have a fee for my services, but when it comes down to it, if I'm not serving them properly and giving them the right expectations, it doesn't help anybody. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to educate people. I want to teach them like how to make money work and how to beat the banks at the games. And if we can, great. If we can't, then we can't. So I'll usually educate them on how we can when they are ready. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that. I love that because, we're serving people from all different walks of life who are at different levels of preparedness. And I know that one of the inevitable obstacles is always funding. And so I like to be able to solve for that ahead of time. And, more than anything, just prepare people for what's coming so that when
Right.
they get to that point, they can, make an educated, empowered decision, feel confident and comfortable. Because, there are enough areas in our life where fear is the leading factor, right?
Sure.
Many, many gurus talk about this, that our society is governed by fear. The news has you scared. Our doctors have us scared. Our schools have us scared.
I know all about the doctor thing.
Yeah, I'm going to dive into that here next because I know that there's your involvement with this industry is very personal. You've experienced your own transformation here. So I'll get to that here in just a second. But just to finish this thought, fear is a governing factor for many of the decisions that we have to make on a daily basis. And when it comes to our business, it is sink or swim in a lot of cases, especially with new budding entrepreneurs and new businesses. And what is considered a high risk industry like CBD and cannabis, one wrong move could be fatal. You run the risk of losing everything by not taking the right step at the right time with the right resources or support system in place. So your involvement with the Emerald Circle is really valuable to you for multiple reasons. One being how we prepare you, meeting you exactly where you are, and then supporting you, giving you the foresight to see what is coming ahead and giving you the tools to prepare yourself for that along the way. So Tyler's just one of those examples. Traffic and marketing is another one of those examples. You can tune into some of the other episodes to see how we've beaten the system on marketing and advertising when nobody else has been able to. And also how we align ourselves with people who have numbers on the board specific to this industry, but also have a personal connection to the success of this industry, helping to hold us accountable and making the necessary resources available to us so that we can succeed. So Tyler, with that being said, would you just take a moment to share with us why you're passionate about helping new and existing CBD brands achieve success and get connected to those resources?
Well, I've heard CBD and all this stuff and that marijuana is helpful and all these things most of my life. In fact, in high school, I was a big supporter of things. So and trying to say it's great, it's safe. But at the same time, I recently, just this January, got told that I had melanoma cancer. It was just stage 1 at the time when they originally tested it, stage 1B actually. And that was in January. I had surgery in fact, they didn't, it was 1B at that moment. And then they scheduled me for a surgery. I had the surgery on the 18th, and on the 24th, I found out that I was no longer stage 1B, that I was stage 3A. So meaning it was into my lymph system, it's in my blood, and I have floating free radical cancer cells in my body, quote unquote, right? So don't know what all that really meant at the time and what it means, and those could land, I guess, somewhere and grow again. I don't know. But then they're telling me that the following week, they told me that I needed to go see a medical oncologist who was not the surgical oncologist that did the surgery, but a medical oncologist, go in to see them, and they were going to be the ones to prescribe me what I needed to help cure me or do what they could to cure me. And at that moment, I just knew, I guess I was just preparing myself for a sales pitch in my head. So I go to the medical oncologist, and quite literally my mother shows up because we had just lost my father last July. So 6 months prior, we had lost my father. And so I guess she didn't want to lose me. And so she wanted to be there for these appointments, but she also wanted to be there to like listen, ask questions, and then tell me what to do. Right. So sit down with this guy, and I'll preface this with, just so you guys know, I've been self-employed for a long time, and the insurance premiums got the best of me as a self-employed individual. And once they hit $1,681 a month, I decided to not have insurance anymore about 2.5 years ago. So I didn't have insurance, and my surgical oncologist that did the surgery, we talked about that beforehand. We talked about all of it. I talked to this guy, this medical oncologist. I talked to his receptionist and everybody. They clarified everything, like, you don't have insurance. Yep, I don't. Okay, great. So you're self-pay. Yep, I am. Okay, great. Anyway, this doctor comes in and he starts explaining things to me, and basically he goes, okay, well, there's 2 different options that we have here to treat you. You don't need to do chemo yet or anything like that just yet, but you have to go on some immune boosters. So that being said, there was one that was a pill. There was one that was an IV. The pill was $30,000 a month. Well, I didn't know this. What he did first is go through the descriptions of what my side effects were going to be. And I travel and do live events 3 weeks out of a month. Mm-hmm. I'm gone for 4 days every week for basically 3 weeks out of a month, 4 or 5 days, typically. And he's describing this pill that I would be taking. He said, you'll turn to a raspberry with a rash and pimples and everything else from your lower chest to the top of your head. So you're not going to be able, he's telling me flat out, you're not going to be able to travel and be in public really, because you're going to look like a big raspberry. And so it's going to be hard, but you can do it. It's just, depends on how strong you can be with like carrying that presence around with you.
Oh my God.
And that'll happen for the next year. And it takes a couple of months to go away when you stop taking the medication after the first year. And then the IVs were, and that was a daily pill. And then the IVs were once a month. There were the first 2 months, they were twice a month. And they were well, I'll get into the price here in just a second. But as he's telling me the side effects of these different medications, my mother, and I'm like, well, I just don't have interest in taking your medications. And he's like, well, he was building this fear like you talked about. He's building all this fear in me. And then my mom asked, well, because she knows that I'm a little bit stubborn and I wasn't really down to do what they were going to ask me to do. And she says, well, what is the situation if he opts to not take this treatment? And he says, this is a life or death decision. To my mom, this is what he says. And he looks at me and he's looking at my mom, and my wife is sitting there, and they were like, see, we told you, like, this is a life or death decision. If you don't take this, you'll definitely be back. And I said, what if I went the homeopathic route? And he said, well, then I'll see you back anyway. I see 100% of those people come back. That's what he told me. So at this moment, and then I said, well, how well do you know your patients? Like, and what's going on with them? And he's like, well, that's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. I care about my patients, da, da, da. And I said, well, how much is this treatment? So it was a loaded question for me. And I said, well, how much is this? And he says, well, don't worry. You've already like had the surgery. So your deductible should have been met just by the surgery and the MRIs and CAT scans that they've taken of you. So, which by the way, I'm already at $50,000, $58,000 in debt from that. Right. So I then go, okay. And he says, so your insurance is covering that. So anything past your deductible, your good thing is you're in January. So it's the very beginning of the year, he says. Right. And so I kind of chuckled to myself and I said, well, how much is it? And he says, well, normal people can't afford it. That's why we have insurance. And then we just go straight to billing your insurance, unless you're like Bill Gates or that Jeff Bezos guy. And I said, how much is it? And he says, or no, he says, that's why we charge your insurance. And I said, what about people without insurance? How much do they have to pay? And he says, well, it's $30,000 to $26,000 a month, depending on which one you choose. That's monthly. Plus you have to have scans every 2 to 3 months that are going to be another $12,000 to $15,000, right? So I'm doing the math in my head and I'm like, okay, so you're really looking for about $500,000 from us.
You're like, I'm a money guy.
350 to $500,000 is basically where we're at the end of a year. And he says, yeah. And I said, well, you know, I don't have insurance, right? And his face and jaw just kind of drop. And he's like, well, so yeah, we just have to figure this out. And I'm like, well, your receptionist and your assistant knew, your nurse, they knew that I didn't have insurance. So that's kind of how I ended that whole conversation with him. I just kind of got real stubborn and real like, okay, I'm out. I stood up and we walked out of that room. It was a sales pitch. That's all it was. It was a fear-mongering sales pitch. It was build as much fear as I can into this guy, use the word cancer, 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 cancer as many times as I can, and life or death words, right? And he'll give me $500,000 this year. That's how they tried to sell me. And I left there and I told my mom and my wife, I'm like, I'm not doing it. And they're like, we get all the way downstairs, 5 floors down, outside onto the curb. And they're like, no, you need to do this. You need to do this. I'm like, I'm not doing it. They're like, yes. So we went back up and scheduled an appointment. I said, I won't show up for this appointment. That's what I told my wife and my mom. And from that moment on, I started like talking to people and researching. Everybody's coming at me with all this different advice, and happened to go to a big event in Nashville and ran into somebody, a good friend, and was talking to him for a little bit. And he's like, hey, I know somebody that you should meet. And he messaged me, or messaged the guy on a group message, put us all together. And this guy responds back with like the most detailed text. This guy's a chemical biologist. He's a surgeon, and he's got, the doctor background, and then turned into this chemical biologist. Do I say who it is, Sonia?
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah, this is Chuck Stebbins. So, and I know you're connected with Chuck now.
Yeah.
So, my goodness, this guy. Doesn't know me. He asked for pictures, so I sent him pictures. And I'll bet this guy sent me, well, if anybody knows in the industry, if they're in the industry, he sent me 2-gallon jugs of this nano water that he's created that's nanoed down to 5 to 7 nanos. And he says, drink this every day, 4 ounces. By the time it got to me, and by the way, there's a process that happened that was months.
Which you guys will be able to see and hear. We're actually documenting the entire experience. So in part 2 of the interview, you guys can go and check out the other podcast, read the article, and see some of the images that we will share from the experience. We will have a censorship. So if you are weak at heart, do not view the following photos. But if you have any kind of cojones in your pants and you really want to see what this plant is capable of, have a little Luxley doodle. Okay, like it is for real sauce. Okay.
Yeah. So this surgery went bad, and let's just to say the least. And
the high level cliffhanger.
It's on my head. I'll give a sample. There's what's left, but. Yeah, it's Chuck told me by the time this stuff, because he obviously had to put it together and order it, and he writes me back this email. He says, this is something I'm putting together specifically for you and your chronic infection. And this is all after he saw a bunch of photos of what had happened with my surgery. And it's hugely infected. And the doctors were actually telling me it's fine. They didn't even want to prescribe me like antibiotics. I had a neighbor that's just a guy that lives down the street from me. He's a doctor, and he came over to my house one night, saw it, and he's like, you're going right now to the pharmacy. Let's find one that's 24 hours, and you're getting some antibiotics. The antibiotics literally did nothing for they did absolutely zero for what was going on in my head. Not in my head, but on my head. So my back of my head will notice where the scar is if people aren't watching any of this. But anyway, when that product from Chuck actually arrived, he was like, I would make this for my mom, my sister, my daughter. Like, I'm taking care of this product that I'm sending you just like I would for my own family. And I haven't even met this guy in person or anything. I've only texted him. I've never talked to him on the phone or anything. And all of a sudden 2-gallon jugs show up, and then some lotion that he'd created, some CBD lotion with some silver particles and different things in it. And he says, gives me instructions of what to do with each bottle. And I'm telling you, 3-4 days later, there was a world of change. It literally took next to no time. And when I started seeing results, I started drinking more than 4 ounces. I was like, go, out of the gallon jug. I just drank straight out of the gallon jug. I was no longer measuring anything. But the bottom line is that, this product and this gentleman, Chuck, have, I think, worked the miracle on me in the internal side of the medicine to cure the infection that was going on in my body that potentially could have killed me, because it's literally right next to my brain.
Man, you were on the brink of death. Let's not candy coat that. Like, that was, you guys have to go and watch the part 2 of this interview, because when we detail out and show you the timeline and the feedback from the medical professionals who are monitoring this man's health and recovery, you will lose your fucking shit. I was over here like, I could not, I'm rendered speechless, because I hear these types of stories all the time. Like, I'm relatively calloused. Bullshit. Bull nanny. Okay. This is one of the most powerful stories I have heard to date. Some of the best documentation that I have seen to date. And I cannot wait to share it with you guys, and just all for the purpose of letting you guys know that you're on the right track. You're on the right track. It may not be happening as fast as you want it, or you may not have everything you feel like you need or are supposed to have as you're getting started, but forget all of that. Throw it to the wind and find the passion in your purpose. There is a purpose that is a part of a movement that is allowing us to break free of a chain and a system that is enslaving us and impoverishing us with fear factors. And those are so heavily governing our decision-making process on a daily basis that we are drowning in impossibility when there is nothing but possibility before us. And it's a very quick shift in your mind frame that will help you understand that 1 degree will change your entire trajectory, and it starts here in your mind. That's 90% of being well. The rest of it just makes it easier. But deciding that you are going to be successful and then finding the way to do that, deciding that you are going to fail, that will be inevitable. It's just one decision away from getting to the destination that you want to be in. And Tyler, if it's okay to say, your religious background and involvement would have otherwise prevented you from,
in a sense, I mean, the CBD is one thing,
pursuing it alone.
The connotation of me being on CBD or marijuana based type of product, and there's just the thought of CBD just means marijuana, right? Which is
there's a lack of education, and
there's a lack of education out there, so lack of the understanding and stuff. So it would be like that breaking some rules, so to speak. So nobody really knows, like my family doesn't know the whole story of all that stuff. I've kind of kept it to myself, but I just said, look, like I told you, I wasn't going to go and take these treatments, and I'm not going to. I'm going to find other ways, and this is the route that I decided to take. And it was just happenstance that I got introduced to Chuck. And I think Chuck and by the way, I went probably 2 months after I was finished with most of the bottle of nano water that Chuck sent me, and at that point, about 2 months after that is when I went back in for my CT scan and MRI and ultrasound, and I'm cancer free. So I don't feel like I'm ever going to get it again. And I'm not afraid of the sun. As you look at my dome right now, I'm not afraid of the sun. I don't think it's necessarily the sun that causes all this stuff. I can say that it may amplify some things, but I'm not afraid of the sun. I'm not afraid of going out and being me and living my life like I always have. And I don't have that fear in me. I know there's a purpose, and I know there was a reason I met Chuck. So, and I know there's a reason we're on this call today. And if I can help one person change something, then I won. So if I save one life and lose mine, still won. So I'm okay with that.
My God, you guys, this is the most exciting thing for me in the world. First of all, like, not only do I get to tell really amazing stories, but, it's just taking a second to focus on, something that's outside of yourself that tends to govern. I always say, thank you, universe, hashtag thank you, universe, because when you I speak into existence, this is a whole theory, and you can look up any guru that you want to around, mindset and blah, blah, blah. I recommend Gary Vee, Tony Robbins. If you really want to get into Confucius, there's all of these incredible people who have talked about the speak it into existence, the manifestation, so on and so forth. So recently, my husband and I have been hyper-focused on attracting the people who can help us, magnify the results that we've been able to create as a husband and wife team. And very shortly after we started to describe that type of synergy, that type of partnership, that type of alliance, that type of participant in our professional space, Tyler showed up, Chuck showed up, some of the other folks that you'll meet started to show up into our circle. And very quickly, what we thought was going to be just another average venture is turning into this incredible, pulsing entity that is solving so many problems for so many people. And again, nothing's ever perfect, but it is exactly as it should be. And we just surrender. We're in the space of surrender right now, where we know that the right people are going to show up at the right time with the right resources and opportunities to move this machine forward. And it's one step at a time, spending the right amount of time on that step, and then moving on to the next thing when you're ready, not when you think you're ready. So this is just such an exciting time, and a conversation around finances can be as deep as this internal connection that we have, with the plant or the purpose that we are serving. And so as Tyler, you've been successful in helping people in restricted industries like CBD acquire the funding or resources that they need to invest into their business. What are some of the areas that you suggest one acquire funding for?
Oh, so, you've got listen, we all need education, right? So funding your education, there's nothing wrong with that. We've heard of student loans most of our lives, but why not do that at 0%, right?
Right.
That's something, you're going to have to get educated and be protected and be guided down the path, right? Like you said earlier, you want to prepare people for what's to come, because there's expectations that you want to, and milestones down the road that you're going to meet, and then the next one starts, right? And so you want to protect that and have the capital there to fund that. Education is key, right? Gaining the proper knowledge and having a support system and team behind you that has been there, done that, and can guide you down that path. Invest into it. So that's one avenue. That's what I travel with the Tony Robbins groups for, and the different groups that I travel with that he's part of, and is just funding education. Number two, I guess, would be implementation. You're going to have equipment and different things that you're going to need for your business. Number three is going to be marketing. Marketing's not free. You got to pay for marketing and get your visibility out there. So creating that visibility is also key, and it's going to take money. And if you have tons of capital and you don't need funding and you're personally wealthy, great. If you're not, you need working capital. Even if you are, why not use the bank's money to do it, right? Even if you have a chunk of money in your bank, why not use the bank's money to actually win with, right? And take a page out of their book and use it against them, right? Beat them at their game. That's how I look at it. We're taking a page out of their book and we're using it, the same strategies that they're using, OPM, other people's money. We've all heard that term. But you're using other people's money, the bank's money at this point, and you're winning, right? So, and you're buying yourself time. That's the key to investment capital, is you're buying yourself time. And as long as the investment is greater than, the return is greater than the cost of the money, it's a win every time. So that's what you have to look at. It's not the cost of the money, it's the return that you can get out of that cost. So very, very powerful that way. And then just funding like the growth and expansion of that business that you're trying to develop. You've got to protect that as well. If you want to scale it all, scalability is not free either. And at some point, hey, we all get to run in the red, or in the black, out of the red, in the black, and the business can fund itself through and through. But until we get to that point where it's consistently protected that way, even businesses that run in the black, they're also leveraging to keep capital, research and development, R&D. Like all these companies get investors involved. Look at that. That's why the stock market exists, right? It's all R&D, right? So build it, grow it, and let's get you some money.
Okay, awesome. I'm so excited about this. I think there's some really amazing people in our group. And for those of you guys who are tuning in and would like to have more information or connect with Tyler specifically about your business, your goals, and some of the things that you're working towards in the Emerald Circle, all of his contact information will be listed below. Tyler, can you go ahead and let him know what email address or website that you would like them to contact you on?
Yeah, so contacting me directly is just really tyler@freedommgmt.com.
Okay.
That's my email address. You let me know that you're working with Sonia and I'll take care of you. And really, that's the main thing. You can show them like my contact information for my email or whatever.
Yep. I'll give them all of that stuff as well, but I just wanted you to say it.
Yeah, my website, some of my links are down right now because we've been changing some things, but the website you could go to currently would be Funded FI, but the information on there is going to direct you to my partner. So my office line is 818-302-0981. My cell phone, which I never mind giving out. In fact, my office line will ring to that. So
okay, perfect. Perfect.
So,
we'll just leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that, and you can post up whatever you need to.
Yep. So we'll put you inside of the private coaching portal. Everybody can get in contact with you there, contact information, any follow-up questions that you guys have, go ahead and post it inside of the chat, as well as, write them down and get prepared for your conversation with Tyler. It is on a case-by-case basis. We gave you guys some framework to expect. There's multiple ways to acquire funding. And if nothing else, take the advantage of the opportunity to speak to somebody who can help prepare you with the necessary steps and resources that you need in order to get to where you want to go. And if you're not quite ready for the capital, make sure that you ask the question, what can I do to get started to prepare myself for this type of capital? We have ways to get you in credit repair. There's, ways to start to build your credit so that you can qualify, all different types of things like that. So want to let you know that we're here and available to help you with those resources. I'm not involved with any of that stuff, but happy to make those connections. We've personally vetted out any of the people that we have connected you with, and they all have experience specifically with CBD and cannabis companies or brands. So feel confident that you will be speaking with educated, empowered, informed folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tyler, any last words?
No, not really. I look forward to the second half of this and sharing the rest of that story. And then we can, I just look forward to working with you guys and your clients, and whatever we can do to help, I'm here for it.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to finish telling your story as well. It is a powerful one. You are a father to three beautiful kids. Four beautiful kids.
You see the one picture, there's the little girl in there.
Yeah, there's the little duck in there. So 4 kiddos, beautiful wife. I can't wait for you guys to meet them. For those of you who are coming to the August event, you are going to see Tyler there, and potentially we will weasel getting his wife and gorgeous kids to join us when we are traveling around masterminding out our businesses together. So I hope you guys
She has her own story, so.
We are so excited to be working with you guys. Thank you so much for all of the hard work that you are doing in this industry. Tyler, thank you for all of the beautiful work that you do in the world. Can't wait to build more success stories with you guys. I'm your host, Sonia Gomez, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Thanks for listening to another Rockstar episode of the Hemp Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Sonia Gomez, and just for you, we took notes on this episode along with the links and other resources mentioned inside of today's show. Get them for free right now by going to theemeraldcircle.com. Now, if you want more on this, please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcast or wherever you like to listen, and you will be automatically entered in to our monthly giveaway where you can get swag bags, all kinds of cool gifts and discounts from our guests, and exclusive offers that are only mentioned right here in the Hemp Revolution podcast. I can't wait for you to share this with your friends. With your help, we've been able to impact millions of people's lives around the world with the truth about hemp and cannabis. And we know that you love us so much that you're going to leave a review and rate us right now on your favorite platform to absorb content just like this. Now, we challenge you to dream big and love the life that you live. Thanks so much, and we hope to see you on our next episode of the Hemp Revolution podcast. Ciao for now.